Yo, what up, guys? Jace here with Cosmic Origins. Thank you if you are coming back because the stream I was just trying to play, the clip I was trying to play, shut the stream down because it was copyrighted apparently, even though the clip is like all over YouTube a million times. So I don't know why my channel got uh, bugged for it, but whatever. Basically, it was a clip from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the TV series, and I was sharing it because it's one of the things I wanted to talk about in this video is that show, because Netflix is coming out with a new adaptation of it, and there was a previous adaptation of it done in like 2008, somewhere around there, by M. Night Shyamalan. That was horrible, and it really did a disservice to the original TV series. But that original cartoon show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is personally my favorite TV show and piece of entertainment and art of all time. Like across any medium, it's my favorite piece of art. It's like this perfect synthesis of different creators and visions and storytelling that came together. And it's a beautiful show. It's a kids show. I mean, it's aimed at kids, but you can definitely watch it as an adult. And there's a lot of spiritual content in it, a lot of deep and meaningful storytelling, character arcs that are just incredible. And still, like as someone that's almost 30 years old, I really still enjoy watching it, and I've seen it like so many times. So if you have kids, it's a must to watch with kids, especially if you want to kind of place those seeds of consciousness and some higher level concepts with divinity and our place in the cosmos. So definitely would recommend watching that show. I'll talk a little bit more about that now before we get into the other stuff. I was going to talk about it at the end, but since we're talking about it now, I might as well quickly cover it. So I'm not going to play that clip again, and I'm not going to play any other clips because of the copyright. But here, let me share my screen here. Here's the poster for the Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And like I said, M. Night Shyamalan did a movie live action of it that just bombed. It was horrible. It was just so bad, especially watching it as a kid. It was just like such a crushing of my inner child. But this, watching the trailer, I actually have hope for it. And I'll tell you something recently that I heard just this morning, actually, was that the woke mob, the woke media, is already attacking this show for not being diverse enough. So that tells me that it's actually going to be probably decent, at least that it's not, hopefully not going to be tainted by wokeism, which is what I was most worried about because, as you know, most of these streaming services are doing is they're all aligned with the BS wokeism. And it was funny to see that South Park episode recently, if you guys saw that, the Panderverse special, where they specifically called out Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, who works at Disney, for basically putting a black gay woman in every thing that they do as like the kind of, wokeism stamp. So yeah. Oh, Joel says, Chakra blowing up right now. I'd be surprised if that's not already a project. Chakra, that'd be a great name, but I haven't seen any projects called Chakra. But maybe someone should get on that, make a Chakra project. What's up, Marlene? Hello to Portugal from the USA. Yeah, the original series was on Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon has its own drama, especially with that guy Dan Schneider and all those shows like iCarly and all those kid shows from the early 2000s that guy ran. But Avatar was this gem amongst all the Nickelodeon shows that just because of must have been the way it was funded and created, and Nickelodeon kind of contracting it separately, I think. But the show is just phenomenal, and it doesn't have any weird wokeism, doesn't have any weird, BS like weirdness. And I'm talking about the 2005 cartoon. So this new Netflix version that we're looking at right now, that's going to come out in like a month, February 22nd, 222. But I would say go watch the trailer, because if you're a fan of the old show, the trailer actually looks decent. And if you've never heard of it before, I'm actually curious to see what you think of it. It might not look as good if you're not familiar with the series, but honestly, I'm stoked. And what's cool about it too, besides the fact that the woke media is already calling it out for not being diverse enough, which tells me that it's going to be legit, it's not going to be wokeism. The other cool thing is that this is Netflix's like largest production of all time. So this is apparently a larger budget than like Game of Thrones, obviously not Netflix, but like these massive, fantasy universes, Lord of the Rings, like all this stuff. Apparently it's got a bigger budget than those guys. And it's the only like large scale fantasy related show that is based in indigenous Asian cultures and other various indigenous cultures. So primarily Asian culture with some other indigenous cultures is very different than the traditional, like medieval European Western based fantasies that like mostly everything else nowadays is kind of based on, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. They're all like European based. So that's one of the things I loved about the original show. And what I was playing the clip on in the last stream I did a couple minutes ago, we got a few minutes in before the clip shut down the stream. But in that clip, which if you go look, I'll show you how to find it so you can watch it yourself. If you just go to YouTube and you type in, I think I closed it, but it's called like Avatar, chakra scene. Just look that up, Avatar chakra guru scene. And in that clip, it's a really good example of the spiritual lessons that they have in the show. And they basically go through how you would activate each chakra and what you need to do to release each chakra, which emotions each chakra is connected to, and how to open it up to allow flow of the chi in the body. So there's a ton of gems like that, and I'm hoping that this new series does it justice. So I was going to play you another cool clip, but I think it's going to get it shut down. But the scene of Roku, one of the old avatars, explaining the avatar state, and they go through past lives and how, he's connected to all these past lives, and they're all him expressed in the now, and just a ton of really deep esoteric stuff. So here's that video. Woke media trashes Avatar for not enough diversity. So I didn't see any actual sources for it. That's the only thing, but interesting that is kind of the narrative already that's developing. So here's some couple images from the cartoon and stuff, but that's pretty much all I want to say about Avatar. It'll be very interesting when it comes out, and I'm looking forward to kind of talking about it a little more, and what spiritual themes that they bring forward in this one, if any, or if they just totally bomb it and make it woke. I'm prepared for that too. But let's dive into what we want to get into really in this video, starting with what's going on astrologically. And I am not an astrology expert by any means, and I'm not even really that good at I'm not well read into astrology, and I don't have the skill of understanding it like other people do, like my friend Mario. But one of the things that Mario has said that really stuck with me is, and if you guys don't know Mario, check him out, Starseed Salsa, the Blu-ray Bodhisattva, Unscripted Liberation Codes, I think is his YouTube. I'm going to try to have him on this channel if you guys don't know him sometime soon to talk more about astrology and crypto, particularly. He's a fellow Gemini like me, so we really get each other and how we think. Also, Joel, shout out to Joel. He's a fellow Gemini too, and assistant coach in Conscious Crypto. So if you join Conscious Crypto, you get to know Joel a little more. But one thing that Mario told me is that Uranus and Taurus rule cryptocurrency. And yes, Lotus, that is a goal. I think we need to make that happen. I already asked him. He said he's down, so we just got to schedule it and make it happen. And he'll hopefully be able to dive into this a little more. But what he told me is that Uranus and Taurus rule cryptocurrency. And what's interesting is that, as you can see by the title here, Uranus has gone direct in Taurus. So I'll just kind of breeze through this article. It's not very long, so we can just look at the highlights. But Uranus began, hold on, where do we want to start? Here, on January 27th, Uranus goes direct after being in retrograde since August 28th, 2023. And also want to point out 1144 was the time this article was written, which is very synchronistic. Hold on, pop over here. I just have this going in the background for me. This is very synchronistic for our academy because every time we're in one of our Conscious Crypto Academy calls, it's 1144 or 144 pops up in some way, usually multiple times. And I've been seeing that number a ton over the past few weeks. So, oh, hey, Braden's a Gemini as well. Shout out to Braden. Gemini bros. Gemini's all the way. Yeah, we'll get Mario on, fellow Gemini. We could talk Gemini, astrology, what's going on for Geminis too, for the Gemini squad out there. Hello from London. Hello to London, Ronnie. Good to see you. So let's go back to this. Let me pop over to that screen again. So we entered the retrograde August 28th, end of last year, 2023. And let's just pop over to the markets real quick since we're here. And I want to look at what happened. Let's look at Bitcoin because Bitcoin is kind of the leader of the markets. So I want to see what happened around August 28th, 2023. So August, so that's right around here. So it's like we were kind of near the relative bottom, and then it looks like we really just started kind of going up on average from there, which is interesting. So that was, there's a lot of other stuff that we've talked about in the academy as to why, like the Bitcoin halving and all these other technical things that contribute to the direction the markets are going. But that is interesting. So with Taurus, with Uranus being in retrograde at that time in Taurus, now it's moving direct, and I'm feeling that this is going to be a more positive shift for crypto and for finances in general, considering Uranus and Taurus rule cryptocurrency. So this shift happening shortly after Pluto's ingress to Aquarius increases the dynamicism, the momentum, the need for change, the underlying restlessness, and the desire to radically revolutionize our lives. Uranus shift of motion is going to be felt strongly, especially by those of us born with our planets between 19-23 degrees or fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. The individuals personally impacted by this event are likely to experience surprises, sudden changes of plans, and opportunities that will allow them to become more independent, emancipated, and free from stagnation and stuckness. So that sounds a lot like, what we've already been talking about cryptocurrency being right now. And, really what my whole mission at this point in my life has been for the past couple of years is kind of spreading this awareness and this message that, there's a massive opportunity available right now with crypto, and that this opportunity available like at this particular point in space time is not going to be around forever. And overall, we are moving into a new paradigm that will be positive on every level, including financial. And it's going to be a step-by-step process. But what I've received, what I've, gotten intuitively is that the financial changes will be the foundations of all the other changes to come. So the first major thing will be the financial shift, which is the shift in the technology away from centralized into decentralized. Taking the power away from the central banking cartels, giving it back to the people in the form of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the technologies to come on top of that. And this is something that within the spiritual like ET disclosure communities, a lot of people have been channeling. People who totally don't understand crypto or aren't in the crypto world, are not focused on that, are talking about crypto technologies and what's going to come out of that. So I believe that God and spirit and people's guides are guiding them to this opportunity right now. And that's why we're seeing so many people who are saying, I had a dream that I was supposed to buy XRP, or I had a dream that this being came to me, or a vision that this being came to me or whatever and told me, hey, you got to invest in crypto. And I've even had people tell me that like that happened, and then they told them to come to me, like straight up. I've had people say, hey, I had a dream that this person or this alien, this being came to me and it said, you have to buy XRP and you need to go to Jace for help. So that was pretty mind blowing. But I've literally seen like, you know, regardless of if they know me, so many people feel divinely guided to it. And that's for a reason. And don't pass up that intuition, you know, like don't sleep on that, because your intuition, if it's telling you that, it's telling you that for a reason. And there's only particular kinds of people that are feeling guided to this opportunity. And from what I'm seeing, it's the people that actually have the vision to change the world and be service to others and help the planet. So please don't sleep on it, because we need you. If you're one of those people, we need you in this network. And I'm not talking about just my academy, not my community, like in the network of the awakened beings on Earth who will greatly benefit in manifesting their vision by investing in this technology right now, investing in crypto technology. And that's going to be the fuel for so many people to literally manifest their visions and accomplish the things that they would have never thought were possible, because it needs, you know, $100 million to do it. So, and since, let me show you a quick tweet from my friend Crypto Mason, because it's relevant to this. He said, crypto is one of the only markets on Earth where $10,000 can literally become $10 million. It's rare and easier said than done, but it has happened. And I'm totally in agreement and alignment with that. And I think that that's even conservative potentially for the opportunities that we're really going to see. So it's exciting. So let's get back to the Uranus and Taurus article here. So here, I'll make it a little bigger so you guys can also read. Okay, you lost my audio. Oops. Okay, I don't know how to do that. Okay, I guess we'll have to stay on screen. There we go. But you can still have me there. But I think you get audio now. Let me know if the audio is coming through. So let's pop back over. So all I was saying was that the Uranus began its transit in 2018, which I find really interesting, because 2018 was the year that XRP was the best performing asset on the planet. It went like tens of thousands of percent, might have even been over 100,000%, but it went from less than half a penny to $3.80 in a couple weeks time. So that's really interesting that Uranus began its transit into the sign of the bull, which, you know, is like the bull market, Taurus, in 2018. And it's going to be there until 2026. So that also lines up with what we know of the Bitcoin halving. And basically this being the event where every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that the miners generate gets cut in half. And then basically it makes the value of an individual Bitcoin go up more, because there is, you know, more value to the smaller and smaller amounts of Bitcoin that they're then able to mine. And for the record, XRP doesn't use mining. The whole mining technology, if you're not familiar with that, is outdated old crypto technology, which is why Bitcoin is not scalable to the masses by any means, unless you want to wait, you know, an hour to pay for your groceries and you know, pay a $10 to $20 fee every time. Bitcoin's not the way. So it's going to be about the technologies that are able to like do it for free and cheap, which is what XRP does basically. So, but that Bitcoin cycle, because Bitcoin's still the biggest narrative at the moment, it rules the markets at the moment. So that Bitcoin halving event is going to be coming up in a couple months this spring. And traditionally the market has been in a bull market for about a year or so after that event. So that would be 2025 closing out around 2026, just from that perspective. So that's really interesting astrologically. That really lines up. Um, so as we're dealing with a transpersonal planet, Uranus transits are connected with matters that go beyond the personal, the immediate, and the subjective. He moves slowly, spending 7 to 8 years in each sign, and marks generational themes and collective transitions. The modern ruler of Aquarius, also known as the Great Awakener, that's pretty cool, has to do with the impulse to rebel and break free from the known, the old, the past, and the familiar, to venture into the unknown, the future, the experimental, and the unfamiliar, which is, that's like the Fool card in tarot is what it makes me think of, and what we always talk about, like having the courage to act on your intuition. And it's like the masculine and the feminine. You get the feminine intuition, the guidance that comes in, and then you have to have um, the courage to act on that. And it reminds me actually of I was just watching Tony Robbins. He's doing this free seminar right now, and I was taking some notes on what he was saying because he had some good stuff in there. And one of them is that affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. So I thought that was really powerful because he was talking about how you should invoke things instead of affirm them, where, affirmation can be basically not really believing. Like you can say, I have $1 million, I have $1 million, I have $1 million. But if you have no intent to actually achieve that, then it's meaningless. And so that's the beginning of delusion, right? So it's like, that's like the heavily polarized feminine, the person who will, want to sit around and manifest completely energetically. Some people can do that. I'm not saying this isn't possible, but for the average person, you need that balance of masculine and feminine. And so I think it's very important to, um, really have well, as Tony Robbins says, like the discipline to act on the affirmation, right? So what are you going to do to make that affirmation happen? You've gotten the intuitive hit, the download, the feminine, but now what is your masculine going to do to actually take those steps to achieve it? And that's what, like, I'm kind of getting here with, breaking free from the old, venturing into the unknown. Like, to me, it's like having that courage to move into that state. And there's going to be people who get that feminine intuition download, but they don't act on it. They don't go and actually invest in crypto, and they don't take the various opportunities that God is presenting them with. And it reminds me of that, what is it, the idiom that's like, the guy who's stuck, like, in a flood on his roof or something. Like, there's some flood, guy's stuck on his roof, and he's praying to God, and he's like, God, please save me. And like, a guy shows up with a boat, and he's like, oh no, God will save me, don't worry. And the guy in the boat leaves, and then he's like, God, please save me. And a helicopter flies over and sends a ladder down. He's like, no, it's okay, like, God's gonna save me. And then like, that kind of thing keeps happening. You guys have probably heard this. God will give us that help when we pray for it, but we have to have the courage to actually see the help when it's given and take advantage of that opportunity. So Joel says, does this Uranus transit have a 4-year cycle as well? I don't know about 4-year cycle. According to this, 2018 until 2026. So that's a 8-year cycle, but maybe there's like a sub 4-year cycle, since eight divided by 2 is 4. I don't know. That's something we'll have to ask Mario when we get Mario on. So where were we? Uranus and Aquarius are connected with objectivity, detachment, and the ability to see reality from a higher vantage point. If they are connected with the quantum field, the hive mind, and the sudden flashes of genius. Over the past few years, our way of perceiving abundance, generating income, and relating to wealth has been dramatically changing as a direct reflection of Uranus's journey through the sign of the bull, Taurus. The archetype associated with the preservation of life and with the consolidation of foundations that grant security and stability that allow life to flourish and blossom. And that's what crypto is all about, right? Like the whole reason I got into crypto was for the security and stability. It wasn't even initially for the wealth opportunity. It was because I saw so many people getting their donation accounts banned for speaking truth on the channels. This was like during the Great Purge when everyone was getting their Facebooks, their Twitters, their Instagrams, their YouTubes, everything was getting censored and shut down, right? And people were getting their donation platforms. So people that relied, YouTube channels, friends of mine that relied upon donations from their creation work had those shut down. And it was just like in Canada with the truckers, where the truckers, they shut down their bank accounts and their access to everything. They shut down every point through which the truckers could transact on any kind of centralized database. So shut down their banks, shut down their PayPal's, Cash Apps, Venmos, and the only way that they were able to transact remotely, when they couldn't do a cash to cash in person transaction. If you're going across the country, you can't do cash. If one person's on the East Coast, one person's on the West Coast, and you got to get the money, crypto was the only way that these truckers were able to keep that protest going and keep rallying. So yeah, massive importance there. And that security and stability is like what I was saying. That's what brought me to it because I realized, it's the only place where uh, it's the only place where like you can actually store money and nobody can go and stick their hand in your pocket. No one can forcibly fine you. No one can do any of that. Your keys, your crypto. So if no one else has your keys, nobody else has your access to your crypto. Um, so let's keep going on here. That allowed life to flourish and blossom. And this is the rest of it, so it's not too much longer. A collective shift in values is happening. Uranus's journey through Taurus has been bringing to the forefront the need to drastically revolutionize the financial systems, food and energy production and distribution, as well as our relationship to nature and the earth. The transit is catalyzing. Uh, Oops, I lost my place because I changed screens. There we go. I moved my screen. There we go. The transit is catalyzing a massive collective shift in values in our relationship to the physical body and our survival needs. For the last few years, Uranus transit through Taurus has been reminding us that security is illusory and that the only constant in life is and will always be change. And that is so true too. Like at the end of the day, what's really important is the moment and the present with the moment and nature and that's kind of why I think crypto is going to help us with that too, because Alexis was pointing this out to me the other day that it kind of gets rid of that materialism, having crypto, having things in a digital space where you don't have to think about the physicality of that. It doesn't take up the space in the physical realm that can distract from that. So it's like this energetic wealth that can be tapped into when needed, that doesn't have to exist in the materialist plane where it can serve as a distraction, which I think is really interesting. So taking action to create a more authentic life. While Uranus was retrograde, we had an opportunity to reflect on our relationship to survival and how we may be trading freedom for security, and on how we may sacrifice our individuality and authenticity in exchange for an illusion of stability and predictability. During the past 5 months, we were invited to observe the areas of our lives that require renovation. We had chances to notice where we need more freedom and space, and we could recognize in ways that we still need to unravel the conditioning and programming we have internalized in the past. Uranus's retrograde journey challenged us to upgrade our definition of security and redefine stability, choosing our inner reality as a reference point rather than the external one. And that I feel that personally too, because I feel like since around that time, August, end of 2023, personally, I've been coasting more on like my savings and not generating as much cash flow, and just because that was where I was at in my life, and I was choosing to take a step back and enjoy life a little more. And so, from the financial perspective, I was feeling that, and kind of redefining the security and stability. And I used to be at a point where like I had nothing. I used to I used to basically be homeless with like barely any money in my account, living in a van, and I always had to rely on God and my faith that everything was going to work out. And those lessons have really carried with me to where I'm at now and the abundance I've been able to generate now. Because when you have nothing, you really have to have faith that everything's going to work out. And it always did. And for Alexis and I, when we were living in the van, we would always get money right when we needed it. Like we needed to pay some bill, some money would come in. We needed to get gas to go to our next destination, like some money would come in, and it would always be divine timing. It ultimately like guided kind of our journey at that time. So that was such for me a valuable lesson, and it wasn't in this transit period that they're talking about here, but it was prior, or I guess it was just after that 2018 moment where Uranus went into Taurus. Um, but still, like those lessons, they've really carried with me into my journey today and how I approach finances and how I, place my faith in God above everything else. So let's see, what other important points we have here? Uranus is now stationary direct. When Uranus is stationary, either retrograde or direct, we always experience an increased restlessness and unpredictability, a surge in unexpected events, and shift of plans, a general acceleration of the pace of our personal and collective evolution. Uranus resuming forward motion represents an invitation to take action to create a more authentic life, and one that reflects the interchanges that took place during the past few months while the planet was retrograde. Around this time, there are higher probabilities of witnessing significant disruptions and changes in the financial marketing, the global economy, and food-based energy production and distribution. Many of us are feeling drawn to act on the impulse to take a different path, dissociate from mainstream society's expectations, and explore new rhythms and ways of living. Which is everything crypto represents, right? Braden says accountability is a big thing for me. I like that we could track what a politician spends their money on. Yeah, that's one of the exciting things I think is the government accountability, Big Brother accountability, and if everything's on the blockchain, uh, that will be accountable. Um, so that's why I'm a big proponent of XRP because it's the best candidate to really do that. And people will take this the other way too and go, okay, the transparency is not good for the little guy. Like I want to hide my finances, I want to be private from Big Brother and that kind of stuff. And while I do see that having value right now, I think that the paradigm that we're moving into is one of full transparency, and one where this transparency is going to root out the evils. So there will be nothing to hide from because all will be known to all by all. And so it will be very obvious who are the bad actors. I mean, we already see how much more obvious it is now who the bad actors are, right? Like the the society's ability on average to recognize the bad actors is so much more potent than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I think that that's going to increase, and that transparency is going to be a key in making sure that we know kind of where everyone is at, and holding both. It's going to hold everybody accountable to each other, to the human network, to the collective consciousness. So, however, in this moment right now, there is value in having private transactions, and that's where even with crypto, it's anonymous, so it may not be private in the sense that it's transparent, and if you have a wallet address, you can see everyone else's wallet. But at the moment, it's anonymous, and we're going to hope that it stays that way and that they don't require KYC identification for every wallet. But at the moment, you can create a wallet, you can have money sent there, and there's no identification with that wallet. So nobody, you don't have to disclose what your wallet is, even though people can see what's on the blockchain. They can't necessarily know, hey, this is so and so's wallet. And that's what the powers that be are trying to clamp down on, right? That's what they want to take away. They want to make it so that everything is tracked and taxable and all that stuff. And that's why the blockchain is such a threat, because it's this wild west, decentralized, permissionless space. Anybody can go there. Anyone can participate in that economy without restriction. But the on ramps and the off ramps into that system, in and out, are where they can throttle and bottleneck and control and take your data. So it's only really when you're going back and forth between the two systems that they're able to exert any power that they have. But that's quickly fading, and that's where I think XRP is really going to play a key difference in, Ripple's goal of banking the unbanked, so that no longer can there be censorship, financial censorship. And XRP was created because the creator got banned from PayPal, so it has that energy foundationally. So let's see what else we got here. We're almost done with this article, then we can move on to the other stuff. So Uranus is now entering post-shadow phase of retrograde, a time to integrate and digest the inner shifts that happened during the last few months. The post-shadow phase is going to end May 13th, which is actually right around that Bitcoin halving I was telling you about. Once Uranus reaches 23 degrees Taurus, synchronistically on that day, Uranus and the Sun meet in Cazimi. I don't know what that is. A perfect conjunction happening at 23 degrees Taurus. Very interesting. Wow. That is fascinating. The Sun-Uranus upcoming conjunction, corresponding to the culmination of the recent Uranus retrograde cycle, will shed light on the themes that we worked on during the retrograde and the post-shadow phase, increasing our awareness of what shifted within us and in the collective, and bringing the spotlight on our individuation process. Realizations, insights, and downloads will be available at this time. Uranus is stationing direct to offer an invitation to align external reality. Around this time, a surge in our discontent and feelings of restlessness will inspire many individuals to make radical changes. This shift will awaken many of us, shake up many lives, and disrupt several of our plans to remind us that we can't control life, we can't impose our will on life, and that after all, change isn't so scary, especially when we don't resist it. Change is foundational, right? So ride that wave of change, be ahead of the wave, be ahead of the average person, get into crypto now, for this microcosm of this theme here. We're relating it to crypto, obviously. Don't miss that wave, because there will be probably a moment where the masses will come flooding in for whatever reason. Maybe there's a collapse of the old system. Maybe there's a sudden realization of the evil of the old system. Maybe, who knows what it is. But, events like the Canada Trucker Rally, what we're seeing now going on with the Civil War narrative with Texas, there is really good reason to have at least some funds in cryptocurrency, in a decentralized digital asset that can be, accessed remotely, that you don't have to be in person to use, like cash or gold and silver. And of course, those still have value, right? Like cash, gold, and silver are king for in-person transactions. But, if you're going remotely, cryptocurrency is the way to go in the digital space. So we want decentralization. We want sovereignty with any asset we have. We want to own it outright. We don't want to own a representation of the value that some centralized group holds, which is the case with the bank. So that's why it's my opinion that the bank is literally the riskiest place that you can keep your money. Legit, I think it's the riskiest place you can keep your money, just with everything that we've seen. That and cryptocurrency exchanges, which are banks within themselves. If your money is custodied by a private mega corporation or a third party of any kind, that's very risky. So I think what we're learning is sovereignty, self-reliance, in not just in finances, but in food and energy and everything. We're moving into the state of being self-actualized, self-realized, and self-responsible. So all planets went direct today for a good while. Now is a great time to start something new. Hey, awesome. That's good to know. So, speaking of which, I am starting something new, and I'll share it with you now. I'm working on a new update to the Conscious Crypto Academy, and I'm just now launching a website that I've been working on. And basically, it's the old academy I've been running, but I'm going to be updating some things, and I have it available for much cheaper than previously. So everything is on a 50 to 60% discount, and you can check out all about the program. I designed this new website that really breaks it down, and that link is down below. So it literally is a fraction of the price that it used to be because I'm going to be focusing on some new things, and I wanted to be able to expand uh, these services to the people who haven't had the financial investment to make for the cost of the previous program because it was a significant investment. And now that I'm focusing on different aspects of my business and of my services, I wanted to open this up for a cheaper price. So if you're one of the people who thought about joining before but wasn't able to make it happen, then I would take advantage of this opportunity now. I'm going to have it available through the end of February, and then I'm going to make some changes after that. So there's no guarantee that the price is going to stay what it is. I'm not sure yet, but I wanted to put this out for at least the month of February so that the people who have been wanting to make it happen, who have been wanting to get in crypto and wanting to be a part of the Conscious Crypto Academy, but couldn't make it work for whatever reason, now it is way more affordable and accessible to those people. So you can check that out down below. And then I also have an option for personal mentorship for a larger investment, obviously. But if you're someone who does have the funds and say you have, say you have stocks, IRAs, whatever, you're pretty well off and you want more of the personal coaching, that's what I'm going to be putting more of my time into. So I'm taking on 5 students for that personal mentorship package. And if that interests you, that information is in that link as well. You can learn about it here. So check that out if you want to join the academy. If you're ready to make it happen, take that leap of faith, and invest in the new financial paradigm as the astrology is showing us. It is a very ripe time to have that courage to take that leap of faith and to invest in the new energies and the new technologies. So make it happen. All right. And on that note, X payments. And yes, it's a leap year. That is, yes, February 29th. It's funny that when I was writing the date for the end of February, it was like, oh yeah, 29th, it's a leap year. So yeah, good energy. Leaping forward, right? Like frog leaping forward. Um, so X.com, if you're not familiar, X.com has officially launched their their profile for the X payments. So if you're not familiar with what their big plan is here, Elon from the beginning has had the vision of creating a everything app. So as you can see here, here's a young and much more bald Elon, and Peter Thiel. If you guys know Peter Thiel, founder of Palantir, a big supporter of Mr. T. Um, there's a lot we could talk into about Peter Thiel, but Peter Thiel and Elon basically co-founded PayPal. They had two companies that came together, and it became this ex PayPal group. And they were the two probably most prominent members of what's known as the PayPal mafia, which is the group of people who were involved in the creation of PayPal. So what's interesting is that logo for one, right? Like X, the X synchronicities, the X connections. What better crypto to run the X payments than XRP and the other X coins? XLM, XDC, SHX, which is Stronghold X. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that it's my theory that these are all connected behind the scenes, and that this is also connected to Space Force, and that this is connected to the Starlink satellites, and that they're going to be running XRP nodes on Starlink satellites. So a lot of people ask me, uh, what happens if the power goes out? Like, how does that work with the digital money with crypto? Like, what happens if there's a solar flash or if they shut the power down? So this is the whole purpose of decentralization in terms of cryptocurrency. Unlike Google or any of these, centralized companies, all their networks are on one or a few localized servers that can be taken down. Cryptocurrency is distributed around the globe by these nodes, and so it works a little different with different blockchains. But basically, as long as one node survives with its data intact, it can repopulate the information of the transparent, blockchain of all the history. It can repopulate that. So that's why there is, for instance, an XRP node in a nuclear bunker, a military bunker underground. We know of at least one publicly. And then I'm guessing, because I think this is very tied into Space Force and national security and this big shift we're about to go through and Mr. T and all this stuff, I think that they're already running these XRP nodes and other blockchain nodes on Starlink satellites, and that's part of Starlink. And Starlink, I have a Starlink, um, and I really feel comfort in knowing that it's like the backup internet, so that if and when they were to shut down the surface level internet, like say there's a big leak that comes out, a big scandal, whatever, if they shut down that surface level internet, well, Starlink is going to keep going. They can't shut down Starlink. The only way Starlink is going to go down is if Elon, um, you know, like chooses to shut it down. And even then, I don't know if he has that power within himself or if it's up to the board or whatever. Uh, but the only way that everything would be shut down is if we had some kind of crazy solar flare, CME type of solar event. And in that case, I think we have bigger fish to fry. We probably have bigger concerns. If it truly sends us back to the Stone Age with no technology, you're going to be worried more about survival than you are your crypto. But that said, as long as one node retains its information, as long as one does, then it can repopulate the rest of the nodes. So that's why they're putting them in underground bunkers and on satellites and all these places. And I've heard of like quantum resistant satellites that they're creating satellites that are going to be resistant against these kind of solar flares and events like that. But yeah, it is the most secure system for maintaining history, even written history in that digital space. And even if like crazy destruction comes to certain places, the information will survive. And I don't think crazy destruction is going to happen. I'm not a proponent of that. I don't think we're going to have like a cataclysmic event. But I do think there could be a situation where like the surface internet is shut down and Starlink is the only thing operating, because that would be the death of the old, the birth of the new, right? Like we know that these various agencies and groups and stuff run most of the internet networks, and they could shut it down if they wanted to, but Starlink's going to keep going. So that all these connections. But going back to X payments, I think what we're going to see is that they're going to be integrating probably multiple cryptocurrencies. Probably not right away, but I imagine over the next year or so, we're going to get that integration rolled out. And again, what better crypto to do it than the X cryptos, right? It seems like it's a match made in heaven. And so going back to this, um, the Crypto Insight UK here was pointing out the logo and how it's so similar to other logos that we see, X logos. So what I pointed out is that Peter Thiel, was also an angel investor in OpenCoin, which is the company that would later become Ripple, which is the company that you know basically created XRP. They didn't technically create it; it was before Ripple, but there's co-creators in common, and so this is what I would call Project X, and all these synchronicities and this plan that seems to be 20 plus years in the making for this new financial system. Uh, so yes, very interesting. And then Peter Thiel has Palantir, which is like basically looking glass technology, some crazy stuff. It goes down a really deep rabbit hole I've dove into in some other videos. I'm not going to go deep into the Peter Thiel Palantir stuff right now, but it is a very fascinating research dive. And then we have Mr. Poole recently, just yesterday, tweeting overnight, everything changes. And this is a page that Mr. Poole is following. so we know that it's connected in some way. We look at the pages that Nicole follows, and obviously there's a connection there. And they seem to tweet around the same time, so they both posted at, I'm assuming just the time change, but at 9:06, 7:06. Overnight, everything changes your existence. So, and then again, what Crypto Mason was saying earlier that we looked at, that crypto is like pretty much the only market on earth where you can invest 10,000 and literally, turn that into 10 million, many millions or more. Um, and yes, so as far as crypto, I think that's going to wrap up the crypto stuff. And well, real quick, the markets have been pumping today, which is a interesting synchronicity with the Uranus going into Taurus. We are seeing positive price action in the markets overall. Nothing crazy, but we're finally getting some green after it's been red for like the last few days. So it was almost like, the retrograde was wearing itself out, and now we've kind of hit that like, curve, and might be coming back up. So once again, check out Conscious Crypto Academy, link down below if you're ready to start your crypto journey. And in other news, we have this civil war narrative that's developing. I'm not going to really go too much into that. You know, I want to see how it holds out. I don't want to feed any negative energy there. But it is very interesting what's happening now that ET has called on a bunch of states to support Texas. And last I saw, it was like about half the states. So I wonder how it's going to play out. But there's definitely an interesting narrative developing here. People are also warning of like J6 type false flag events that could occur near the border. Oh, audio getting choppy. Okay, it's still choppy. Hopefully, it's not choppy. We'll keep going. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Now this I found really interesting, and I'm gonna have to stop sharing, and I have to share it a different way to get the audio. So give me just a sec here. I'm going to stop the share, and then we're gonna share it on the tab, and then let's see which one was it. Okay, there we go. Share audio. So I don't know who this is. If you know who this is, let me know. Um, but and I don't know who posted this originally, but this account reposted it. And it's a guy who is at the tomb of Napoleon, and he gives this very interesting message to the powers that be slash were. And he's wearing a Space Force hat, and I'll just play it for you. It's only a minute, so.
Bonjour, messieurs. I'm now speaking English. I'm addressing you from Napoleon's tomb. I'm addressing former President Alain Berset of Switzerland, President Macron, former President and Foreign Minister Cassis, and Mr. Schwab and Tedros. Napoleon Bonaparte, that's his tomb, said, never interrupt your enemy when he makes a mistake. Well, let me tell you, gentlemen, what is coming next is a virus, and you will not have a vaccine. It's called the Space Force, and you will soon find out what it means. I don't wish you a happy new year for what you have done to humanity, and I say sempre supra, au revoir, goodbye.
Stop.
That gave me chills when I first saw it. And I don't know if this guy has any significance. I don't know if he's actually Space Force. Probably not. I saw someone in the comments. Actually, let's just check it together. Somebody in the comments said who they thought it was. Pascal Majadi. His father co-founded the WEF. So take that with a big grain of salt. But he is against the WEF, and his father left because he rejected what Schwab was doing. So apparently he defected from that, which he kind of gives off that energy, like he knows, he's familiar with them. And I mean, he called out Schwab and the others. But
I'm addressing.
yes, I mean, I just like we're talking about, like, I think it's tied in. I think Space Force, obviously, Elon, Starlink, you know, they're contracted to the Space Force, SpaceX is, and then you have X, the X, you know, everything app. All of that, I believe, is connected. And I think that we're going to see some very interesting developments related to it over the next little while. And then also related to developments, I need to share this separately again. I wanted to talk about the pole shift briefly, because there is an account that you might be familiar with called Suspicious Observers, who is getting pretty popular now. And hold on, here we go. Space weather news. So I'm not going to play this whole thing, but I'll play a part of it. Basically, what he's talking about is this idea that every 12,500 years, there is this pole shift of 90 degrees, and that there's evidence, various types of evidence in the crust and the way that we can see the changes of, like, you know, ice versus intense heat. I don't know exactly how the science works on as far as the evidence, but 12,500 years also lines up with what, like, the Law of One books say, as far as kind of the middle point of the 25,000 year cycles. You know, this idea that we go through these 25,000 year cycles of consciousness and of evolution, and that kind of, you know, that halfway point, something significant happens, it seems. And it seems that evidence points to, you know, the fall of Atlantis being around that same time period, like around 12,500 or so years ago. And that would line up perfectly with a pole shift narrative, as far as massive flooding and continental drift and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to play a short clip from this because it is a 7-minute video, but I just want to show the part about the actual way that they think the Earth will reorient. Might have to refresh this.
Understand why losing Earth's magnetic field creates a danger of radiation, how it puts our technological world at risk from solar storms. Let's do that now, shall we?
I want to preface this by saying, while this guy brings forward a lot of fascinating information, overall, I do not vibe with his doomer outlook. He has a very emotionally charged outlook, as far as this being like the death of humanity and this thing that we all need to be freaked out about. And overall, I don't believe in any message that gives you a fearful view of the future. So I would say take what he's saying with a grain of salt, and you know, be discerning about how you take in the information, and particularly any kind of fear that may be associated with it. And that's what's interesting, is that the data itself is pretty objective, and I do believe we've had these pole shifts and that its potential one is coming. And I'll tell you my thoughts a little more about what that could mean after that. But I just wanted to preface that. Take it with a grain of salt.
One thing to have it be part of most ancient stories, religious texts, and in the sediment history pointed out by every catastrophist for centuries. But even if those lines of evidence are unconnected by timelines and geography, they are still just a curious set of coincidences, all suggesting the same people think about, but this is a complete
So I'll give you the TLDR for this part. He talks about how mammoths, you know, we see all this imagery of mammoths in the ice, but that couldn't have actually really happened because they needed way more food than would have been available in that kind of icy environment. And then they talk about the ice, and, like, I think the evidence in the ice of the pole shift. but this is the part that I really wanted to get more into. They talk about the study that was done by, I forget the name, but let's see if he says it here. It was like a classified military study that talked about the pole shift and validated it.
So now, let's get to that best piece of evidence. Major Maynard E. White, who went to the Arctic in Project Nanook, kept the classified data and classified documents from the Pentagon meetings, and he gave them to his son, Ken White, to publish years later in this book. They not only found evidence of a magnetic pole shift every 10 to 12,000 years, but that the Earth turns over 90 degrees. They dug down and found alternating polar and tropical fossil layers, one after another, each about 12,000 years thick in time. Not only that, but the Pentagon documents he kept included their scientists and those from the RAND Corporation, which is the government's secret science lapdog even till today, showed the mechanism of how the Earth tilted over 90 degrees from that magnetic pole shift. It looks like this, a 90-degree tilt, then a tilt back about 12,000 years later when the cycle happens again. It is already underway now, 12,000 years since the last one. Now, there is another layer to this piece of evidence, but first let's review. Almost every ancient culture and religion describes these events. My favorites are from ancient India, the Book of Enoch, the Bible, and Zoroastrian texts. They are supported by the geologic evidence of great floods triggered when the oceans wash over the continents as the Earth turns over. The mammoths could not have survived in the polar region today, and definitely not in a glacial cycle. The old ice argument fails twice, by isotope problems and by the fact that glaciers remain in the tropics today. And then the classified data and scientific reports from Project Nanook, the Pentagon, and RAND all point to the same thing. The Earth turns over 90 degrees. Now, the easiest way this happens is during the Great Solar Flash, which is also evidenced as part of being in this disaster cycle. Modern solar storms are proven to induce electric current all the way down into the mantle. And when the big one happens, the solar flash, the crust will be unlocked from the mantle due to the geochemical changes below. RAND, the Pentagon, Chan Thomas, Einstein, and many others did the math and checked the evidence. And they all say that the Earth would tilt such that Greenland would shift southward to the equator, and the side of Antarctica just south of Australia would shift north to the equator. Now, this would put the new geographic poles near India and near South America. Remember that. Now, I said this is underway again at this time, 12,000 years since the last one. The magnetic poles have already begun to shift.
So isn't that interesting? The new poles would be at India and South America, right? So like the US is all of a sudden kind of like where Australia is in the southern hemisphere down here. And then South America is just like the new pole. So what I find particularly interesting is that something that my wife Alexis told me that she heard was that there is something known as the Jaguar prophecy. And somebody who was a former border patrol agent told us about this. And apparently the prophecy, which I couldn't really find anything online about, but the prophecy talked about a mass migration of people from South America to North America. All right. So like, doesn't that look like what we're seeing right now with the border and everything? And I'm not approaching this from like a side standpoint, because I think it's bigger than that. It's more of an energy thing. So if this really is going to happen, you know, and South America becomes the new pole, well, this prophecy was basically saying something along these lines, that South America would not be inhabitable anymore, and that for whatever reason, you know, whatever the physical catalyst is, IRL, there would be this mass migration of people in these times. I'm not sure when this prophecy was said or whatever, but it feels like, you know, another one of these biblical prophecies, like a book of Revelations, about the kind of patterns that we would see. And so why would that happen? Well, if there's this innate energy that is guiding the people of that area to move to the north, I mean, of course, we have all these political things that are being accentuated. But I think in the bigger picture, the reason why God does allow things, however you want to view that, the reason why negative things are allowed to happen while there is a God, an all-loving God, in my opinion, is because every bad thing that happens is a lesson, right? It's not for meaningless suffering. It's not for just the sake of bad things happening. It's because every experience that we perceive as negative, either on a personal or a collective level, is meant to guide us in some sort of experience and some sort of way to teach us to become more loving and more heart-centered and more community, collective oriented, and our connection to God and to strengthen our connection to God. And that's where, like, what I think about, the analogy that comes to mind a lot is this story of the Anunnaki, and how the Anunnaki, were in one version of the story that I heard, were actually led here by what you could refer to as higher positive galactic angelic forces. And the reason was not so that these beings could enslave humanity and make them make gold and all these things you hear from Stitchin and the tablets. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but that the bad things happened to perpetuate the growth and acceleration of humanity's conscious expansion. So when you enslave someone, it wakes them up to their circumstances and their abilities a lot faster in certain circumstances, at least in this analogy. So, I think that that's what happened at that point in time, and that can apply to a lot of other things in today's age. But the way that I'm applying that is in the sense that, we're seeing all these people come over the border. It's obviously a very polarizing thing, but most people agree like something is not right, and that this is, the powers that be that are perpetuating this to create a civil war or whatever it may be. And there's truth to that. But like, what if on the bigger level, this is actually being allowed to happen because these people that live there need to move out because there is not going to be an inhabitable space. And so it's a multifaceted experience. It's serving this one purpose, but it's also serving this polarizing political, purpose within our kind of mental games of what we do on the planet and the way that we, organize information and wars and all this stuff, the polarity game on the planet. So I just find that to be really interesting. I would like to hear your thoughts if you have any on that. Throw them in the chat or in a comment. But then also India, right? So like, if India is going to be at the North Pole, are they going to start mass exiting to like, whatever is, I don't know what would be. Let's see what they picture from India, what the closest landmass to the equator would be. So India would be like over there, right at the north. So they would probably, if this was accurate, I'm not saying that it is, but if this is accurate, they'd probably come down into like the Middle East and Africa here, and like Europe being closer to the equator. So if we do see the people of India all of a sudden mass migrating to other countries, then that's a sign that, that maybe there's something to this. But like I was saying earlier, I don't buy into the fear mongering aspect of it. So another thing that I think is interesting is, what is Elon trying to do right now in terms of space? We looked at everything else he's doing. We looked at all the payments, the satellites, and we talked about like what purpose that could serve in basically transitioning us to the new paradigm and away from the powers that were. But as far as the space thing, how does that play in? Well, I think one aspect is that he's catching us up to what we were behind on. So we haven't developed new technology space travel wise in like the last 100 years. Rockets are 100-year-old technology. But now we're finding out it's very likely that, we never went to the moon with rockets. Like, I think we went to the moon, just not with rockets, at least not as many times as they told us they did with rockets. So now we're having to reaccomplish these things that society thinks we already accomplished with rocket technology. And it's like bringing us back up to neutral, whereas the powers that were wanted us back down here. So he's like pushing the standard forward that all the damage has been caused by over the past 70 years in terms of the withholding of technology and being focused on optimizing the same technology like a car or a rocket over and over, and adding a new little dial into your car and a new LED light and Bluetooth and all the things that make the new car so much better. But now look at Teslas, right? Like, love or hate electric vehicles, Teslas are pushing, and I don't have a Tesla, and I do think that there are problems with EVs, but Teslas are pushing the industry forward, and they're the only car company that's actually doing any kind of real innovation. No other car company is doing real innovation. It's all just OCD optimizing of the same things and adding a new flashy button and a new flashy, thing every year. But Tesla's like, actually, they're experimenting, like trial and error, but they're pushing that standard forward. And so on the space side, they're doing the same thing with SpaceX. And so I think on one aspect it's doing that. And, if we get a SpaceX mission to the moon, maybe we'll get disclosure of what's actually going on the moon and why they had to fake the Apollo, footage, like what they saw on the moon. If you listen to whistleblowers like William Tompkins, highly recommend looking into Bill Tompkins, if you're not familiar with him. And he talked about how, on the first Apollo mission, they couldn't use the footage because there's just bases and ETs and ships everywhere, because the moon is basically like the Switzerland of space. It's like this interplanetary hub for different species to come and go, and a neutral ground for it. So they couldn't disclose that in 1969, so they had to fake the footage, right? So now what happens now that SpaceX is going outside of the normal, means as NASA, and like deviating from from what they were trying to push as their agenda? I could see us going to Mars with the SpaceX rocket and having a bunch of people on it and having that be disclosure, right? Instead of it coming from the government officially or whatever, like we get to see it, we get to send actual people. It's not just them telling us, here's a video that we probably faked of what happened. There will be eyewitness testimony. And then same thing with Mars. And then beyond that, what if Elon knows about this pole shift? He's talked about, Elon's talked about the Ice Age rabbit hole. So when he went on the Nelk podcast, on the Full Send podcast, which is a very interesting dynamic between their crowd and him, he touched upon how looking into ice ages is a very deep and kind of a dark rabbit hole. And, it's because it connects with what we're talking about here with the pole shifts and the source of actual climate change, not because of CO2 and all this stuff, but because of these natural earth cycles. So Elon knows about that, I think. And if he knows about that, he probably knows about the pole shifts. And if he knows about the pole shifts, then if he really is pro-humanity, I know some of you might not think that, but that's what I do lean towards with all the evidence I've seen and what I feel from him, from his energy. He, not saying he doesn't make mistakes, and not saying like Neuralink is a bad idea, I think, but he's human, right? And every human makes mistakes, but I think he is pro-humanity. And if you're pro-humanity and you had a space company and you're trying to get to Mars anyway, and there's a pole shift coming, wouldn't you try to make it so that you could put as many people as possible on Mars or in orbit in a short amount of time as possible? And then you look at what their plan is and the like videos that they've made of what they want in like 10 years, which is like hundreds of different rockets all taking off with like 100+ people on every rocket. So you're launching like thousands or hundreds of thousands or like within a year. I think they wanted to launch like millions of people within a year. So like massive kind of exodus, or at least getting us off the planet, right? So I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but this is an idea I had. Like, what if that is his plan for mitigating and waiting out the pole shift? We go to Mars, we wait it out. We go into orbit, we wait it out. A lot of people within the like ET disclosure community think that the ETs are going to come down and take us and save us from that. But wouldn't it be more kind of in alignment with what we know, the way that God tends to work in the energies, if we were given the task ourselves in a way to kind of save ourselves from the pole shift, or like it's like that God analogy again, right? Like if we're praying for God, God, please help us, and then Elon is all of a sudden like, hey, here's my space arc, you know, the pole shift is coming. Do you want to come up in the space arc? And that's where like, tell me in the chat, like, would you get on Elon's space arc? Let me know, because that's probably going to be a pretty polarizing thing, right? Like there's going to be people that for sure are like, yes, space arc, and other people are going to be like, nope, I'm going to stay on Earth. I don't trust you. Like I'd rather just, you know, like have the cataclysm if it happens. So tell me in the chat, would you get on Elon's space arc if he said the pole shift was coming? I'm not familiar with this, Braden. The Colburn Bible. I'll have to look that up. South America will start the 6th root race. That's an interesting idea. I've been meditating on that more, like what the real root races are, and like, you know, did we all come from the one race, or is it, you know, different ET seedings, which I think it is, like different ET based groups. But what are the true root races? Like, are the Russians their own root race from the rest of Europe? Because Europe kind of feels like one main root race, and then you got the Russians, and then you got the Asian groups, which seems like they stemmed out of one root race, and then of course African and Middle Eastern. And human race is now 4th ray esoteric, which is harmony through violence. So know when to pick what fight with what goal. The end goal should always be harmony, love. Yeah, my belief is that the new, you know, what do you want to call it, 4th density or 4th ray or 5D or whatever title, you know, you want to put on it for yourself. It's all describing, you know, the same thing. And I think it's a paradigm of, like we were talking about earlier with crypto, it's transparency, but it's unifying transparency. So everyone within the civilization is on the same page, is of a similar vibration, wanting to put their collective on the same trajectory. But then I think where, you know, other people misunderstand that is they think, you know, evil will never exist again. And I do think, you know, outside of that civilization, there are going to be, you know, dark evil forces and things like that, and maybe even that spring up within that civilization. But it's that within the human race, within that civilization, we're going to have peace and harmony, and we're not going to be infighting. And yeah, I think that's kind of what you're saying here too, Lotus. And yeah, the end goal should always be harmony. And then it's like, you know, if another group comes and attacks you from outer space, of course you're going to defend yourself from them, right? So it's like that warrior in the garden versus gardener in the war. You'd rather be a warrior in the garden than gardener in the war. It's an interesting analogy for, you know, that new paradigm too. People from Africa are actually what? Yes, LOC. Yeah, NASA, never a straight answer. Exactly. Yeah, there's definitely, I wouldn't doubt if the moon is kind of like Antarctica, where, you know, just under the surface, there's big caverns of like, you know, lush tropical type stuff. And on the surface, it's like, you know, ice, or, you know, the moon's not ice, but rock or ice, moon, Antarctica. And then underneath could be way more. But I think the moon is also like partially artificial. So maybe those areas only exist in the artificially induced areas versus naturally. Vast space pod. The Vast arc, the stellar XLM arc. So if you guys don't know, Vast is a space company that is contracted with Starlink, or with SpaceX now, that's owned by the same guy who owns Stellar, which is the cryptocurrency XLM, which is a break off of XRP. So there's some interesting connections there. All right, so who's getting on the arc? Competing art companies, yeah. All right, Matthew's getting on the arc. Why not? Right? What do you got to lose? Right? His secret name is Noah. Lotus says, why not too? All right, well, 2 for 2 with the arc. You surprised me, Lotus. I would think you would have been one that would not trust the arc based on what I know you feel about Elon. Make our own arc rocket, red countdown liftoff. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, this is where I think it will go, is like once that point, you know, whenever that divinely lines up, I do think Elon is going to have his own awakening to this stuff. And whether that is kind of, you know, whether he's already awake to that and this is kind of a pre-scripted planned thing, or he genuinely wakes up to it, I think there probably will be a moment where Elon wakes up to ET life being real, and then the technologies, like, has some kind of public moment where, even though most likely he already knows these technologies exist, but something publicly that would catalyze the public watching him, right? Like, think about how much of an impact it would have on the public, especially now that he's so much more trusted for going against the powers that were. Think about how impactful that would be, especially in today's time where people are already so you know, on the verge of being awake, or being pushed into the state of being awake from COVID and from all the financial, you know, stress and everything that's been happening. Yeah, exactly. He's come to Jesus moment. Yeah. So like, if he had that, and what if it was literally a come to Jesus moment? That would be crazy. Like, if he literally was like, you guys, I had a dream, I had a vision that Jesus came to me, and Jesus told me that I have to make the ark. Jesus said I got to build the space ark. So who's coming? I wouldn't put that past possibility. People from Africa are migrating to Canada. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I mean, Africa is like, if we look at this map, Africa's part of it will be good. I mean, again, not saying this is actually accurate in any way, but if this is right, then Africa would be, you know, like West Africa would be tropical maybe now, and then like what was Eastern Africa would be like up where Europe and North America was, so maybe a little more chilly. But yeah, maybe we need to watch who's migrating the most, and that's the sign for where people are not going to want to live, even if they don't consciously know it. Yeah, it does feel like anything's possible. Yeah. The co-creative power is so potent right now too. You can feel it. The way people are perceiving, more than ever, I'm like, okay, I don't want to give energy to things that I don't even care about. Like, is it relevant to where we want to go? Is it relevant to, like, you know, what we're trying to create and build on the planet? And if it's not, then I have to really be like, okay, like maybe I shouldn't, you know, comment on this post or talk about this or give it any energy. But like, naturally, sometimes you want to, because of the sensationalism, right? Like I like work with that. Like, you're like, oh, this is exciting, but like maybe I shouldn't give it energy. So nobody is not going on the ark. Everyone's going to go on the ark. I think I would too, maybe, unless I get like a really strong feeling that's like, no, you have to be on Earth. Because, you know, one of the other things they say in like the Law of One and some other texts is that, like, traditionally the transition between densities, that harvest, that graduation, that ascension event, is like a death of the body. So maybe that's what's necessary. Maybe we do have to, not in a morbid way, but maybe we do have to perish in our third density 3D bodies. Maybe we have to perish before we can populate into the new realm. And but then you still need like the transition, right? Like the dual bodies, as the Law of One puts it, like the intermediaries, because if everyone dies, then no one's going to birth the new, you know, the new people, the new race. But maybe that's an event. Yeah, I don't know. I'm undecided on how I feel about all that. Stay and help those left behind. Yeah. But what if it's like a guarantee that like, I'm not saying it is, but what if it's like, well, it's just going to wipe out the surface? Like, what if everything points toward that there won't be, people left behind? It's a weird thought experiment. But if it's like, okay, some places are going to do okay, other places are not, then that would definitely be a better reason to stay behind and help. If you're like, okay, I know some places are going to remain intact and we can help, get people there, get people to survive. And yeah, if he really does push the space arc thing, if that actually becomes reality, then it probably would be accompanied by at least the narrative that everything's going to get wiped out on the surface. Yeah. And yeah, I go back and forth on how I feel about that. Like, when I feel into it, it feels like we're staying in these bodies. Like it doesn't feel like we're dying, but that could be the, illusion. The death is an illusion, right? Like there's not really any such thing as death. Your consciousness just keeps going into the next realm. Like we basically die every night when we dream and then we come back. So, but at the same time, it feels like we're staying in these vessels. Like it feels like I'm still going to be Jace and you're still going to be Matthew and, Braden and Joel and Isaiah and, like, I don't know. Do you feel that too? Like that there is some kind of direct continuation of the soul expression that we know right now, but maybe it will be, maybe it's something that we can't even comprehend. I mean, that's probably what it is, honestly. Something we can't comprehend. Usually it is, right? Like the Socratic view, like the more you learn, the more you realize we really know nothing. When you die, will you actually know you're dead? Probably not, right? Well, that's what like a lot of I think a lot of souls, when they have traumatic deaths, like when we think of ghosts haunting places, especially like places that, were around the Civil War or like places where there was death, traumatic deaths, I think, get the soul in that state where they're like, wait, they don't even know that they're dead. And that's what I think a ghost is personally, like a soul that hasn't come to terms with the fact that its physical vessel has died and is here. But I feel like I see what you're saying too. Like in that transition, it could be so seamless that you don't even know, like maybe we wouldn't even interpret it as death in that moment. It's just like shedding the skin of the snake or something. You have to be born again. Yeah. Reborn, shed the skin, born again. But then who are the intermediaries that are doing the birthing? Like what the law of one calls the dual bodies. Like who are the dual bodies? Like are we all the dual bodies? Or are the dual bodies just like some people? Or maybe it's just women because they're doing the birthing. So many questions. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. I've had dreams where I've like felt my soul, like it was like an out of body experience within the dream realm, and it felt like that. And it like showed me that same thing, that the consciousness is like, it's the root of like travel through the dimensions too. I don't know how to explain it. I know you know though. We have to allow ourselves to be surprised. Yeah. Like don't overthink it. Don't make it too much of a mental problem to solve. And the law of one says something like that too, that basically we have to be we have to understand that we can't understand everything. We have to come to terms with our inability to comprehend the big picture in order to evolve and to ascend to the higher realms. Which makes sense. Like that is the Socratic, the Socratic idea. Like we know at the end of the day, Jon Snow, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Exactly. Who knows? Yeah. Makes me bummed that I couldn't play that clip about the reincarnation and everything from Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you guys missed that, I started a previous stream and it got taken down because I was playing this clip. But go look up Avatar: The Last Airbender. Watch the original series. Just everyone watching. Watch the original cartoon series. It's on Netflix. I think it's also on Amazon. But Netflix is readapting that to a brand new series next month in February. It's live action, real actors and stuff. Could be good. It could totally suck and be woke. I hope not. But the original cartoon is by far my favorite piece of entertainment and art ever created. And it's a kid's show, but it's definitely not just for kids. It's for like the inner child, and it will like bring the inner child out of you. And it's just so pure, so many good lessons, such good storytelling and character arcs, and just I highly recommend it, especially if you have kids. But even if you don't have kids, just check it out. Watch the first season before Netflix drops their remake of it this month. And yeah, it's such a good show. Like if I was on a desert island with only one show, I'd definitely pick that. That and Rick and Morty are my favorite shows. But I was telling Alexis this the other day, like Rick and Morty is, even though I love it, it's like based on our collective traumas, and it's like a reflection of our collective torment and traumas and all this. And I love it for what it gives us in our current state and the comedy and what it makes us laugh at and the concepts. But Avatar is just like such a pure piece of art and creation. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Look it up. Highly recommend it. Oh yeah. I was just watching a video where a guy said that the remake, that he did not like the remake that for Cowboy Bebop, that he thought it didn't do its service, that Netflix like, gypped it kind of. But I never saw the original or the remake, so I don't know. But it sounds like you liked it, so I'm glad that that it was exactly like the cartoon, because that's what you hope, that they don't go and change it and make it woke. And that's what I'm hoping with Avatar, that they don't make it woke. But what I was saying in the beginning of this stream was that apparently the parts of the media are already attacking Avatar: The Last Airbender, the new series, for not being diverse enough in its casting. So because they didn't cast, I don't know, like a African person where it wasn't relevant, or maybe they didn't make people gay. I'm hoping, like that's what I'm praying, that they didn't wokeify it and like make the characters LGBT and trans or whatever. And the fact that this rumor is coming out that the media is saying it's not diverse enough is a good sign to me, because if the media disapproves of it, then I approve of it for the most part. Yeah, Rick and Morty. If you guys are Rick and Morty fans, I was really bummed when Justin Roiland left the show. I guess I'll take this down because we don't need it anymore. Justin Roiland was like the main guy with Dan Harmon who made the show and did like all the voices, and then he got fired over allegations, which turned out to not be true. He could have still been involved in some weird stuff. Those guys definitely have made some questionable content, but overall, something about Rick and Morty, I think that there's a connection with, like, I don't know if it's Space Force or what, but there's something where, especially in this most recent season, there is an insane amount of disclosure, including talking about the intergalactic like slave trade, cannibalism topic. There's literally an episode about that where like they start, like when one type of person on a planet dies, they turn into spaghetti, and then they ship it out for other people, and they're eating the spaghetti that is like the dead people. It was like major disclosure, like the dark SSP stuff, but like in your face. But it was the first season that they took out Justin Roiland. So when we started watching it, I was bummed that he wasn't the voice, but then by the end of the season, I like didn't really care because the topics were so on point. And Rick and Morty in general has so much disclosure. I recommend Rick and Morty too, if you guys are into that stuff. It's definitely an adult show. Rick and Morty is an adult show. Don't watch that one with kids. But Avatar, kids show. Yeah, probably would. The new Avatar on Netflix would probably be bad if you didn't know the cartoon. That was like what I thought about One Piece. Like I never saw One Piece, the cartoon, and then I saw Netflix make their version of One Piece, and I didn't watch it, but just watching the trailers, I was like, this doesn't look good. But apparently the people who liked One Piece thought it was really good and faithful to the cartoon. So that's where people have hope for Avatar. But yeah, I could see where like if you didn't watch it, you'd be like, meh. But it still might be good. I'm hoping that they're gonna make it good. Like I wish I could play the trailer because they make it look really real. And like, if you guys saw the original series, you know who Heibai is. It's like the panda spirit. There's like an episode where like this spirit like destroys a town, and instead of just making it like a demonic spirit, you know, that would have been the easy writing. It was actually a spirit that was upset because the people had burned the forest down or like deforested the area and took away its home. And so this panda spirit turned into like this angry kind of demonic entity. And anyways, in the trailer, they show a clip of it and it looks really good. Like the CGI looks on point. That was a really good episode too in the original series. Woke weird shit in the cartoon. They had to put put the drag queen in. Drag queen? Was there a drag queen in Avatar? I don't remember that. Oh, wait, drag queen. Unless you're talking about like that scene with the play and the Ember Island players where like the girl plays Aang instead. Is that what you're talking about? Or you're talking about like Toph being played by a man? But that, if you're talking about that, I took that as parody. I did not see your post about Seal Coin. First few seasons of Rick and Morty. Yeah. Yeah. So it just the newest season that they released the last couple months doesn't have Justin Roiland. And as like a big fan of the show, I could tell it wasn't him the first few episodes. Like the voice, Rick especially, just didn't sound right. But after a couple episodes into the season, like the writing was just so good and you could tell it just felt like there was a more organized, I hesitate to say white hat, but you know what I mean? Like that kind of energy behind it, like an organized, almost like disclosure. Like it was straight up disclosure. And it was so good with the writing that I kind of forgot about the Justin Roiland thing by the end of it. Like I wasn't so focused on it. So it made it easier to watch, but definitely in the beginning, I was like, oh, I can't, like, I'm done with Rick and Morty. I can't watch it anymore. But by the end of the season, I was like, okay, it's like the writers they still got it. And I guess Justin Roiland stopped writing for the series after like season 2 or 3. You can kind of tell there was a shift of tone, but it almost feels like that's when whatever other force took over to like make it more disclosure-y. Feels like that happened around season 2 or 3, maybe. I heard Rick and Morty was based on the characters of Back to the Future, Doc and Marty. Yeah, yes, it's a joke based on that. So they basically took that and then like, you know, took that idea and did a grotesque spinoff. And it's definitely a particular kind of like stoner comedy. So if you don't like that kind of comedy, it might not hit for you. But for like my generation and like kind of the generation a little bit below and above mine, I think it hits for most people. But my generation seems to be the one that's like in most, you know, resonance with it. But like I tried to show my parents and they're like, we just can't get into it. Like it's too much of a stoner comedy. But there's so much good stuff in it. There's like so much good disclosure and like interdimensional stuff and like just fun concepts to explore. Seal coin is a machine-to-machine Internet of Things coin being built on the Hedera network using quantum tech. Interesting. I haven't heard of it. I'm not a big fan of Hedera, I'll say that. Like I'm not a fan of HBAR and Hedera just because of how it's governed and the hash graph technology I don't like, but I'll have to look into Seal coin. Bender, informal a drinking bout, British taboo, slang, a male homosexual. Bender. The last airbender, a male homosexual. Where does that even, that's a UK thing or what? Yeah, British taboo. That's funny. Ha. What's up, Dennis? Good to see you. Rick and Morty is definitely a trip. I saw a couple episodes. Yeah. So if you guys want to watch Rick and Morty, I think it's on Hulu. But if you can watch it for free, they have a 24/7 like live stream of it. If you go to, I'm pretty sure if you go to rickandmorty.com or if you go to Adult Swim website, I think it'll redirect you to Adult Swim. But they've got a 24/7 stream and you can watch it there. Otherwise, you can buy them on Amazon. That's where I had to watch the new season. You buy them for like $2 or $3 each on Amazon. But yeah, they're funny. UK slang. Peace, Braden. Good to have you here. Take care, brother. Enjoy your family time. It's like asterisk and obelisk without Gaussian. I don't know what that word is. And only underzo. Some duos are better than one. I don't know the reference. I noticed you do that. I like it. It's unique. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I got a very bright sun in my face now, and it feels good. But I think I'm going to go spend some time with my family now, too, like Braden. And quick reminder that if you guys want to join the Conscious Crypto Academy, then you can click the link down below. I have an amazing sale going on right now. It's literally over 60% off. Oh, I'm not sharing the right thing. Hold on. There we go. Stop screen. Share. StreamYard's a little weird with the way they share stuff. Here we go. So yeah, link down below. Basically, I am offering the old program that I had for a significant discount for the month of February. So until February 29th, that special day on the leap year, I'm going to have the program available for a little bit over 60% off. And again, yeah, you can click that link down below, and that's going to get you the whole Academy pre-recorded masterclass. So it's all pre-recorded, ready to go, step-by-step tutorials that show you how to do all of the wallet setups, how to do transfers, and then eventually how to set up passive income. So we are doing the main platform that we focus on in the program for passive income is doing a little bit more than 25% APY, annual percentage yield. So 25% interest annually, which is really good. And it's compounding interest. So you get to claim it like literally every day if you wanted to. So it's taking the power of compounding interest back into our hands instead of it being used against us by the banks, the credit card companies, and getting us into perpetual debt. Compounding interest is one of the things that is now being given back to humanity in terms of financial tools that will allow the average person to amass a significant amount of wealth over their lifetime. So this is what like our next generations have to look forward to. You know, traditionally you're just putting money in the bank and you're getting like tiny returns, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4% a year. But if you're getting 20% or more and you're able to compound that as often as you want, you can multiply your wealth, like your savings, within a matter of years. And so that's one of the cool technologies that is finally being given to the people again. in the crypto space with decentralized finance, and it's going to take the power away from those centralized debt reaping structures, debt creating, cartels and groups that are just looking to enslave us with financial slavery. So liberate yourself. Join the Conscious Crypto Academy if you're feeling called to do it. Take advantage of that discount this month. And thanks for hanging out, guys. Good to see you all. Thanks for hanging out, Matthew, Dennis, Hero, Marlene, Joel, of course, Lotus. Much love, you guys. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your Saturday. And by the way, if you sign up today, you can join our call tomorrow. So we do our coaching calls for the Academy every Sunday. So if you sign up today, you can join our call immediately tomorrow. Even if you haven't gone through the course at all, you can just come hang out, listen, hear the updates and what's going on. And yeah, love to see you there. So they're like group Zoom calls we do every week. So we'll get to hang out in a Zoom space and talk face to face. So there you go, brother. Hey, with compounding though, like, you can still make it happen. All right, guys. Much love. Peace out. Take care. We're going to do the outro.